welcome to No Movies in Hell. I'm Chris Geiger.
I'm LaQuas Scott, and today we are reviewing Silent Night, the new John Woo film.
The new John Woo film. Now, what was the last thing John Woo did?
Oh my gosh, nothing that I remember. Nothing that I remember that was, I guess, US based. I think he's done a lot of stuff internationally. Yeah, for some reason it was not clicking that this was his film until it was like, oh, I'm gonna go see the new John Woo film, and then we went to the theater, and I was like, wait, this is it.
When you said you were going to go see it, I was like, I don't know what the new John Woo film is, but I did know that I was going to see Silent Night because I'm a Joel Kinnaman fan. So I was like, when I put the two together, I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
not how I would have described it, but okay.
yeah. It was like I totally was not expecting this. And I think the last film that I saw of his probably was Face Off, if not for some of the films that were at like Sundays on Fire, which would have been pre Face Off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Silent Night was action, right? Good for what
I
it
loved it.
was. Yeah.
It was like campy, which was great. I feel like it's going to be a classic in its own way. Like it is heavy on the action. It's heavy on like the nonsensical
Yes.
violence, I guess. Like even like the opening like 10 minutes, I was just like, how are they not like falling out of the car and dead if somebody's like shooting you right in the window?
Right.
And I was very confused about the balloon in the beginning. I was like, oh, is he chasing the balloon or is he running from it? Or it dawned on me probably about 15 minutes in. I'm like, nobody's really talking.
Right. Yeah. There were definitely parts that did not make sense, even in that world.
Yeah.
I did like it though. It was fun, and it's not your average Christmas movie, of course. It's a
Yes.
Christmas movie in the spirit of Die Hard.
Yes.
I love that they put him in the reindeer sweater.
Oh, wow. I'm shocked that I gave it a higher score than you. I'm curious to know where you were like, had questions.
Mm. So I think, let's see, where are the big differences? Cinematography. So the cinematography I thought was very cool. Like one of the things that I really liked and this is maybe going to be a spoiler, the woman who is part of the gang.
Oh, yeah.
Like presented like almost like she's so beautiful, right? And when she comes out in the end action scene, she comes out and she's still that image of like this almost,
Beauties.
yeah, beauty, but in a very specific way, like almost
Yeah.
like video game heroine. Like that's her outfit, that's her hair, that's like the whole aesthetic. And she comes out
Yeah.
with that. And then as the camera is focusing on her, she is literally deteriorating. Like you can see her becoming less attractive. Like
Yeah.
she's getting bags under her eyes. She's getting like all you. It's like her makeup is just like melting off somehow or like dissipating.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting.
There were, yeah, I think at some point someone had asked, like, oh, is that his wife? And I'm like, no, but I think they were trying to make it seem as though like she's second to the final boss. And almost like someone this beautiful wouldn't be this bad. And it's like, no, she's bad. And then you kind of meet her in the beginning when like she spills like a really weird like beverage on him. I won't say like it's Slurpee, but it was very like, I don't know, some neon colored drink on him. And I was like, oh, that's horrible. And kind of had like a bad attitude about it. And I'm like, oh, she's a heroine on heroin.
Right, right.
I like cinematography. This movie had all of the John Wooisms. It had the candles. It had the bird. It didn't have a dove, but it did have like the bird in the window when our main character is recovering. Of course, like the action sequences and the sequences of bosses. So you had like, the little the I don't know, like the tertiary guys, and then when those guys are done, you got the secondary guys, and then you got the one big boss guy that like no one can defeat him or whatever. And then you work your way up to the to like the final boss where, spoiler alert, he doesn't have to use a weapon to defeat him. I thought it was great. It was a little I feel like there's some CGI around kind of, I guess, location, because some of it was like factories and this and that, and like, but overall I thought it was good. And I really liked the story. I feel like it's going to be a classic because this guy is like an everyman. Like he literally, like he's an everyman, he's struggling, and you see him work his way up into being like this tough guy instead of actually being like tough guy, and then kind of, further emphasizing he's going to get revenge on family. So it's like he starts really small, and I kind of chuckled when it was like the dumbbells, like, oh, you have a 10-pound weight, like what are you going to do with that, ha ha ha. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like this is some inspiration here. And like, conditioning himself and giving himself some time to like really fight back.
Yeah, I thought it was good and well worth the watch. Do you have any other thoughts and feelings about Silent Night?
No, I just thought that it was a good John Woo film. How would you rank Joel's performances, like relative to, I guess, other film, this performance relative to other performances?
First saw him in The Killing, which
Okay.
I really liked. And he plays this character, he's the primary male lead, and he plays this character that has some issues, but he's mostly a good guy. And I think that was maybe the role where I felt like his acting was like on point.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else that I've seen him in, he's leveraged more of an action sort of role, which not that that's not acting, like that for sure is, but that subtle sort of nuanced performance he hasn't really been able to turn in because that's not the material that he gets in an action movie for the most part. So I kind of felt like he didn't have the opportunity to really play up his strengths in terms of that nuanced performance. Like in terms of the action performance, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I gave it like a 2.5 for acting.
Got it. And like, I think for me, my latest reference would have been the Suicide Squad movies, where I'm like, oh, I think he was the only returning character in both of those. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, this is good. And then what I thought was fun was seeing Kid Cudi or Scott Mescudi as the detective. And I was like, wow, he's like a young detective in this. And I feel like the last thing that I saw him in was in X, the prequel, or actually the sequel to Pearl. So it was sequenced after Pearl, but came out first. So I was like, oh, this is cool. But then I'm like, a silent cop is very rare. Like all this is very rare. I guess it forces everyone to put a little more emphasis on, telling the story with minimal speech. So I think it's good. It translates very well too. So
yeah. Do you have anything that you want to plug in this episode?
yes, we have some more movies on deck, obviously. So I'm excited to review Poor Things because I've seen it. So I'm just waiting for you to see it.
I'm gonna get on
along with Boy and the Heron, and then Godzilla -1. So yeah, lots movies.
Yes.
So how about you?
On deck for this week is Eileen,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna try to see Poor Things this coming weekend. So I'll be catching up with you on that. And then I did see Godzilla -1 this last weekend.
Nice.
So we'll have that. We'll talk about that soon.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
See you next time.